now you're famous and everyone's shipping you and the hottest guy in Gotham.
Covering up.
So in preparations for this Batwoman video, I went ahead and read Greg Rucka's Batwoman eulogy, because all I knew going in was that she was a lesbian, a soldier, an outsider of the Bat family despite her name, and had a TV show everyone made fun of. However, upon closer inspection, there's actually a really sad character here. Kane is someone who's basically broken for the reason that she has no real solid footing in life. She grew up with her father in the military, so she was always forced to constantly move homes. Thus, all she had was her twin sister, her mother, and a household that constantly imposed values of the integrity, honor, and service variety. As a result, when her sister and mom died during a kidnapping, all she had left were those values, which were then challenged by the need to lie about her sexuality to avoid capping her military career. In the face of this ultimatum, she actually refused, because she took the cadet motto to never cheat or lie even more seriously than the very institution itself. Therefore, what being Batwoman means to Kate is another way to apply her sense of service to something greater again. When she was a lost soul, Batman answering the call was for her the ultimate signal to answer her own call. The Batwoman show opens with Batman abandoning Kate's family, leading to her sister and mum falling to their deaths. Not that anyone asked me, nor does it matter, but I quite like Ruby Rose. Her Kate will be down to what the writers and showrunners do with the character, but as a human being, I think she's a fine choice. Wait, why didn't they hire Greg? This show is so bad, and I kinda love it. It's made by and for chronically online people, and for someone who's developed a taste for junk food after an entire year of nothing but eating junk food, I find myself thrilled by the most minor different creative choices. Like, the title goes... And oh wow, there's multi-seasonal redemption arcs, fight scenes that aren't just people shooting beams at each other. Furthermore, it's now public knowledge that the last decade of the culture wars was actually quite literally a psychological operation designed by a cabal to control corporate interest rates. So I was just kind of watching this stupid show with a great sense of peace.
Shouldn't you be in the hospital?
You know I hate hospitals.
The first season is kind of the worst though. One of the key selling points for the show was that Batwoman herself would be played by movie star Ruby Rose, but everyone, even the fans, collectively agreed that her performance is pretty wooden. You really get this vibe where this is not what she thought it'd be, so she just wants to get the fuck out the whole time. Which isn't surprising because the CW is pretty infamous for not looking after their actors. Tom Welling nearly died from overexhaustion, and Ruby Rose was rushed back to work after all of her injuries. However, there's also claims that she was hard to work with on sets, but then she said he was hard to work with, and it all led to a lawsuit eventually, with receipts, and it all got pretty messy. Batwoman Season 1 follows Kane, who returns to a crumbling Gotham City that didn't have a Batman for 3 years, so the city is protected by her father, Jacob Kane's private security firm, The Crows. It's kind of wild the first season just presents a private police force who prioritizes protecting the rich as not being outwardly villainous.
I'm ready to come home and work for you.
The second season does fix this by defunding them after they shot Luke. But right now, they're just a substitute for the real police, where despite their funding and technology, they can't stop Alice and her Wonderland gang, who's terrorizing Gotham. So Kane becomes Batwoman to help. Bruce Wayne was her cousin, and he looked after her like an irresponsible uncle, so in his disappearance, he left everything to her.
Bruce Wayne is Batman.
So she modifies his strangely already curvy suit, adds a wig to it for style, and becomes a massive gay icon. I'm not even joking, as literally what happens in the show, and also she bickers with Lucius Fox's son, Luke. On the surface, the show seems like a cool vigilante procedural crime-solving show like Arrow, and to an extent it is that, right down to featuring a grumpy bureaucratic dad figure.
But I gotta take this call.
However, Batwoman is more like a really melodramatic soap opera filled with twists, turns, and even more closing narrations where characters think about how they should have opened their hearts more to another person.
How am I supposed to connect with her now when I couldn't connect with her then?
Get this, Kate's long-lost sister Beth is actually Alice.
Tell your men to stand down.
She survived the crash, got kidnapped by a creepy guy who could turn people's faces into wearable masks, including his own son, who becomes like her surrogate brother. As a result, Beth at a young age had her mind broken, where no one was there to save her. There was this one time where her dad got close, but she didn't say anything because she didn't want him to get killed. Her dad is a colonel in the US military, so I'm sure he would have been fine, but the real trauma was when Kate was on the other side of the door and couldn't sense Beth.
I waited for you to feel it, to know, to sense.
Thus, Beth never forgave her father or sister since. She became Alice and wanted revenge, especially when he got a new wife, and Kate got a new sister in the form of Mary.
Mary. Where's my dad?
He was an absurdly annoying character in the first season, but she actually became my favorite character afterwards. Also in the shuffle, there's also Kate's love interest Sophie, who was her girlfriend in the military academy, but unlike Kate, she stayed in the closet because she didn't have the money to have other options.
I credit him for stopping me from losing everything I worked for.
And instead you just lost me.
There's a whole spiderweb of relationships, but the anchor for everything is Alice versus Kate, and the gravitational pull from their fight bends everyone's motivations around it. And that includes Kate herself too. In the comic, being a soldier was the core foundational pillar for Kate's entire character. Service was her way of maintaining continuity with who she was before the tragedy, and it was her way of authoring herself a new identity. So, she always had structure and purpose, beyond being a victim of something so awful. Batwoman became her way of extending this. The show effectively abandons all of this in order to make Kate more of a rebellious rogue, where after leaving military academy, she wasn't lost.
I'd spent years traveling the world, training with combat and survivalist specialists so I could join the Crows.
She grew up with Mary, and now replacing Batman has just landed on her lap.
For a minute there, really felt like he was home.
As a result, her becoming Batwoman became more about personalizing and expressing herself within the confines of a set brand. It's why you get the infamous line,
The suit is literal perfection.
It will be, when it fits a woman.
and also why dramatically they made Jacob the annoying bureaucrat rather than someone helping her. This change, I argue, was for the worse, because so much of what made Batwoman unique is now gone. The military backstory is no longer a defining feature.
If we lie, why are we even here?
Her independence as someone who had to rely on her own resources is gone. She's not even really mourning.
And you are my sister, Kate.
No.
However, that being said, I kinda loved how this meant, in a twist of events, this season ends up not being a story about forgiveness. It's about drawing lines in order to protect who you are.
I don't believe this.
Kate gave Alice every chance she could, but when Alice killed Mary's mom, it's game over. She's out of forgiveness. From here on out, Kate takes her in whenever she can.
What did she do?
She saved their lives.
When Kate had to choose between Alice and Beth from another Earth, she picks the good one. Unfortunately, asshole shoots good Beth afterwards. But in lacking the core motivation of Kate aspiring towards something greater than herself, we now have someone that's buried her trauma and converted the unresolved grief into defensive pride.
There's some sad and lonely closet that I want nothing to do with.
But that pride allows her to be a real force of nature in this chaotic world. She becomes like, spare me your crocodile tears, sister, you're gonna f***ing prison.
I don't believe this.
This is also where Mary comes in, as the crucial counterweight to Alice.
Batwoman is the same person I've looked up to my entire life. And now this city needs you as much as I do.
Even after she totally strangled asshole to death.
You stole everything from me!
In hindsight, after all of these changes, it's pretty clear that they wanted to make a female Batman show more than a Batwoman show, especially when Arrow was coming to an end. So in the face of the Bat embargo, I guess this is what you do. Another thing you can do is make Kane one of the chosen ones during Crisis on Infinite Earths.
You are the paragon of courage.
Her crossover episode is actually insane in terms of what's included. You got Barry and Mia Queen resurrecting Oliver after his death with the help of John Constantine, but the cameos don't just end there. You also have evil Jonah Hex, Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy Tulik, who's dealing with Lex traveling to different Earths to kill Superman. So they meet Tom Welling and Brandon Routh. What? What's Kate up to? Well, alongside Supergirl, they find Kevin Conroy's Batman, a retired Batman, whose own Kate died 5 years ago, and now he's just a broken man who didn't stop killing. He even killed his Earth Superman when he didn't pass the ketchup.
Life only makes sense if you force it to.
And now he refuses to help, until he ends up dying of an electric shock. Kate Kane is declared the Bat of the Future.
You are the bat of the future, Kate Kane.
But which doesn't really work out because she gets written out of the show, but arguably during her tenure she does change the future of the bat symbol in terms of the fact that it's not just a figure of authority, but a beloved champion of the people, a public gay icon, which leaves space for someone like Ryan later on.
Sometimes the best way to save someone is to be yourself.
But regardless, there's a clear intention to feature Batwoman as a possible replacement figure for an Arrowverse without Arrow now. They knew everyone would watch the first episode after Oliver's death. They knew concentrating these cameos would generate headlines for Batwoman specifically, and they knew pairing her up with Kara would get people excited over the future of their own version of World's Finest.
Sounds like the Paragon of Hope just got her hope back.
I kind of like how the previous episode ended on a cliffhanger, and then right after this crossover, it just immediately carries on like nothing happened. Like, this is life and death, universes at odds, but you know, what's Alice up to? The finale is all about getting kryptonite, which is the only substance that can pierce the Batsuit. Alice's surrogate brother, Mouse, wants to leave and start anew with her, but she's not at all interested. So he's like, F I'm leaving.
You can't leave me alone. Don't make me.
But she then counterproductively poisons him. Batwoman and Jacob team up, only for it to immediately lead to a bunch of shooting, because he commits to his war against her. He blames Batwoman as being part of the same system, which killed his wife.
What are you doing?
Kate cries as it's all gone to shit. She wanted to believe she was different from Alice when being Batwoman, but now she's not convinced anymore. Alice makes Hush look like Bruce Wayne as a way to get the kryptonite, and a dark second season is set up, where everything is at a boiling point. But then Ruby Rose left and never came back from the show. How do they write out Kate Kane after such a setup? Well, let's literally kill her with a f***ing plane crash.
Luke.
Watching these seasons back to back is kind of like playing an RPG where you make every single wrong choice, but somehow the story keeps going. However, this wild turn actually works out really well in terms of allowing all the supporting characters to be much deeper than if the show just kept on as usual. Jacob, at the height of his boiling point, has to reckon with the fact that he's accidentally attacked his own daughter. Alice, carrying all this hatred, has to figure out how to resurrect her sister. And now Marion Luke has to shift from being a pair of unprofessional dweebs to being the veterans now.
Kate's dead.
Batwoman Season 2, with all of its bonkers choices, which only gets more wild, has one of the more interesting cast of characters as a result. No one feels like they just exist functionally. Anyway, who's replacing Kate Kane? Well, on the night of her plane crash, thankfully an ex-con was living in her van just outside so she can pick up the costume immediately. How convenient. I love Ryan Wilder. She's a scrappy rogue who has her own trauma. As an orphan, she was kidnapped by some old bitch, and for 60 days she refused to break. She stayed strong, despite society's neglect.
I'm the girl you couldn't break.
When she was adopted, that mother figure was killed by Alice's gang, and now she can't work because Ryan took a plea deal for something actually her ex did. So, when she puts on the Batwoman costume, it gives her the power to deal with her own feelings of impotence, to be a hero and perform the comics that she once loved as a kid.
I'm not stealing. These are free.
As a result, there's no aspect of the Chosen One here. There's no aspect of Ryan that fits into any dynastic value or relevance. Instead, she represents the ordinary Gotham citizen, someone that's usually looked over. Unfortunately, she summarizes this in the most literal and chronically online sounding speech ever, where it sounds like they literally just used the notes from the character's pitch meeting.
I'm a $20 a day check to a group home. I'm inmate 40757, serving 18 months for a crime I didn't commit. But I can live with all those numbers because the mama who adopted me, those are number one. But it turns out she's just one of 250,000 murders in this country who have not seen justice. And that is a number I can't live with.
Anyway, this means she's effectively a stranger to the Bat family, but they give her a chance when she takes out Hush, and also help ease the pro-Batwoman crowd that was going crazy. Everyone loves Batwoman, you see, especially Alice.
I said I wanted her dead.
It's pretty clear Alice and Kate's cat and mouse game would have continued if Ruby Rose didn't leave, so in the absence of this purpose, ironically the character herself has to figure out what to do with herself.
I think underneath all of your crazy, this is your cry for help. It's your sick way of grieving.
Her original master plan was to get Jacob to shoot Batwoman with a kryptonite bullet so he'd unknowingly kill his own daughter. But now all she has is the crude motive of trying to resurrect her in order to try this again. As a result, her redemption arc this season is less about moral reform, but more focused on a personal reckoning, where she can't deny that she actually really wants her sister back.
Now give me Kate.
Alice is then able to engage with this part of herself through a romance with a dude called Ocean, someone she met when she was getting trained on an island back in the day.
I want to do what you did. I want to escape.
Alice does unfortunately kill him when she had to choose between him or Kate, which utterly fractures her because it was pointless.
I never had your sister, Alice.
Thankfully, dude came back to life, only to die at the very end again. But before that happens, all of a sudden, Alice's identity wasn't entirely organized around finding a way to get Kate to acknowledge her pain. She has someone that she can share it with. Alice wasn't a separate dissociative identity disorder persona, it was a performance that she didn't know how to stop, because every single day she had to compartmentalize the hunger for unconditional love after growing up with no one to save her. But now, Alice and Beth can become one, as they feel the same things, as they want more than one thing, which is everything.
I have my boyfriends and my sister.
So is Kate actually dead? Actually, nah, she got captured and reprogrammed by Black Mask into believing she's his dead daughter, Cersei Sionis. Then she even gets her face too, or this to justify a recast. Also wait, is that Jor-El's mum from Krypton? Character-wise, the Cersei arc humbles Kate. She experiences the same abuse and identity destabilization that she judged Alice for, while also, as Alice and Jacob saves her, her pride finally breaks down, revealing someone softer beneath. The season 2 finale is pretty darn silly. I genuinely laughed out loud when the island lady behind Ocean's death was like, "Hey, join me, Alice," and she just gets stabbed. Like, what'd you expect? However, for one of these silly CW shows, all these plot threads are extremely well organized, and they fit together to create a greater sense of whole. Cersei, as Kate, causes total chaos for Black Mask. Ryan rises to the occasion, removing everyone's doubt from the Bat family, and even her parole officer.
Anytime, Batwoman.
Jacob is in prison. And in the big climax at the end, in the water, Alice gets to save Kate. And they relive the tragedy that changed their lives all those years ago. But this time, they're together. Ryan saves Kate in the way that she couldn't save her own adopted mother. Everyone finds some form of second chance through their efforts to save each other, a turning point that neither the audience or the characters could ever foresee, because it clearly wasn't the original vision, but in letting the characters grow out of their original plans, the show becomes better for it. What's unique about Batwoman, flaws and all, and there's a lot of flaws, is that it was never a show that was sleepwalking or running on autopilot. The writing was often clumsy, blunt and stupid, but you could tell the show liked itself. It allowed the characters to organically determine where the story should go, as opposed to have them fit into a specific format. However, that being said, the season does end with Kate handing the mantle to Ryan, and unfortunately, Alice returns to Arkham. Also, how is Batwoman's wig not falling off? Unfortunately, Batwoman never reached the average Arrowverse 7-season length, which is a real shame because the last season is the best by quite a landslide. It's not high art by any means, and it didn't even receive any radical creative overhaul. Everyone behind the scenes were the same, but you could tell the writers had become experienced gardeners when taking these living characters and letting them determine their own fate.
In exchange for my freedom.
And this season asks, who are these characters in the face of coming home? Back to originally what they wanted. Who's Ryan's biological mom? Shockingly, it's not someone that's just a cameo. It's Wayne Enterprise rival Jada Jet, who had an affair, gave a couple $1 million to the doctor to set up Ryan's life, but he just kept the money. Therefore, where Ryan grew up with nothing, Jada's official son Marcus got everything. What's wild is how subdued this twist is presented. Ryan doesn't hate Jada, or even really cares about the mystery originally.
We're not doing this.
She's already living a totally fulfilling life, but she's drawn to the idea that she's not alone, especially when this woman reflects so much of her own qualities back to her.
I liked it better when I didn't know she was there.
While Jada initially needed to see Ryan only as a stranger so she doesn't feel any animalistic guilt from failing someone she brought to this earth. And also she can carry on her plans for a hostile takeover of Wayne Enterprises.
If you continue to try to have anything to do with my family...
This central conflict shockingly doesn't take the form of a seasonal supervillain arc. Jaden doesn't put on a f***ing supervillain costume, but instead everything stays within the framing of people struggling with their own arrogances. Because this isn't a matter of trauma recovery, they know who they are. It's now about finding where they fit into each other's lives. Both are drawn to the possibilities of a relationship, but both aren't willing to compromise.
Thank you for giving me up. Thank you for walking away and letting me be someone else's problem. Because I didn't get the butlers, or the 5-course meal, or the mansion. I got a home. I got love. I got a real mother.
In contrast, Luke struggles to let go of his father. Luke Fox has been a very loyal, snarky, and talkative little genius man.
I should be thanking you.
but when he was shot, he actually chose to stay with his father in the afterlife. But he just took too long to make a choice and he came back to life anyways. Now he has Lucius back in the form of an AI inside his Batwing helmet.
And I always know when you need me.
But the suit reveals something to Lucius that he's not ready for, that his body may have healed, but not his mind, because the suit responds to his heart rate, and upon seeing guns, he gets PTSD, which is a bit of an issue if you're always fighting people with guns. It's something which Mary tries to warn him about, but to no avail.
PTSD from being shot.
I don't have PTSD.
Speaking of Mary, by the way, both her and Alice finally find a sisterly connection that they've always wanted from Kate, from each other.
I know we weren't each other's first choice in the sister department, but I'm really glad you're here.
After the events of season 2, all Alice wants is to just escape. She hallucinates Jacob sending her postcards, but he never did.
This is a coloring book page!
But he did send Mary to regularly check up on her though, much to her own annoyance.
Fine.
But due to Mary's medical background, she can read Alice really well.
She's been trapped her whole life, and now she wants her freedom.
While Alice can read Mary also well because she can recognize someone who hasn't experienced the same freedoms she had, while also suffering from the same hunger for liberation.
Well, I'm glad the new you finally agrees that everyone sucks.
So when Mary gets infected by poison ivy and becomes one herself, Alice is there to shepherd her.
Welcome to the dark side.
But that also means she stood back and watched when Mary totally killed someone.
Poison Mary, I was there for you, making sure no one got in your way.
You weren't there for me. You took advantage of me. You needed me, so you encouraged me. And now a wife is without her husband, and there are 2 boys without their dad, and their life is ruined, and my life is ruined.
I know that was a lot of crying, but trust me, the season itself isn't annoying to watch because the fundamental existence of these relationships is in themselves a huge milestone for all of these characters. Nobody is in a place of stagnation, rather they're all in unique positions where their growth comes from finding ways to accommodate old relationships in their new selves, either by finding peace, letting go, or sharing burdens. In the case of Mary, Alice takes accountability of the man she killed.
Yesterday, the police informed us they received a call from a woman claiming to be Alice. She owned up to the murder.
What you did for me was above and beyond anything that anyone's ever done for me.
Another character with an unexpected direction is also Sophie Moore. She was kind of like Lana Lang in season 1 where she loved Kate but is with this guy, but then they got divorced so she wants to be with Batwoman.
What the hell is going on?
I was about to ask you the same thing.
The central impetus of her story is that she's a closeted lesbian who feared losing her career and facing her homophobic mother. What was really neat in removing Kate from the show was that Sophie got to stay around and bully Ryan.
Now that's new.
But also, they get to deconstruct her character. Sophie actually left the Crows, even before Jacob disbanded them, when she realized being black and being a private police officer is kind of a conflict of interest.
I didn't listen when you two warned me about them. And what kills me is I didn't even listen when my own gut warned me about them.
Her homophobic mother already left, so all that's left for Sophie is someone who's not so afraid anymore. She can uphold her ideals on her own terms, which in this case has become the grizzled mentor figure, helpful in both detective work and on the field. This intimacy with Ryan then connects with the two. They naturally grow to the point of falling in love.
You got this.
One person has stopped the need to lie, the other, like Kate, was always relentless in being herself. But unlike Kate, Ryan never judged Sophie. At least not for this anyway, she did judge her for being a police officer.
I'm sorry I got heated. We're all heated, girl.
Anyway, how does all of this come together? Well, the secret villain this season was actually Marcus. Bro got abducted by the Joker as a kid and got his brain electrocharged. So now he's 95% good, but the other 5% is beyond dangerous. Like as a kid, he poisons his dad. There's a great feeling of schadenfreude towards Jada, but then you feel bad for her because as the layers peel back, she shows true love towards Ryan. And at the same time, Marcus is also a pretty dope villain. Bro kills the entire Black Love Society. It's also revealed that the school bus the abduction happened on was the same one that rammed Kate and Beth off the bridge. That's why Batman had no time. These Arrowverse shows are often so poorly planned that a reveal this clean felt fucking revolutionary. Anyway, the solution for Marcus is pretty silly. They gotta zap him in the head again with the same buzzer. Literally, being crazy is like an on and off switch. Therefore, Alice wants a piece of that. She can't live with what she's become, especially as her desperation leads her to further hallucinations.
Please go away.
But not needing this way out, that's actually been the point of this whole season. Ryan gives Alice the buzzer. She had the opportunity. However, who Alice has already become is evidence that the buzzer isn't necessary for where she wants to go.
Do it on my own.
No, you don't want to do it on your own. But I not only deserve it, I need it because it's hard. But if anyone can survive hard, Alice, it's you.
Alice isn't entirely the problem, and Beth isn't entirely the key. The truth is, both together shows what she's capable of.
But deep down, Mary knows, and I know, and you know, you are not the one who needs this.
Thank you. I mean it.
Luke has to let go of Lucius's AI so he can blow up Marcus's blimp to save Gotham, and Mary is proud of Alice. The last time we see these characters are them with champagne, excited for what follows next. What happened to Bruce Wayne? What's Kate up to on Krypton? How is Jacob enjoying prison? These questions will probably never be answered, but instead of feeling sad or defeated, it left me with a good feeling to know that these characters will continue to grow and change and live their lives, even if we don't get to see it. That is until we get this goddamn last second tease for Dr. Phosphorus rising from the wreckage. What the fuck? After watching the first episode, I went into the rest of the show with a pretty dismissive attitude. It also doesn't help that any clip will make it look like a scene from a Korn parody.
I'm so glad my madness has soothed your daddy issues.
But I think time will be kind to the show because look at how much has changed in the last 5 years after it ended. We're at the brink of World War III, the AI apocalypse, the end of clean water as we know it, the end of the American World Order too. Every day is about processing a different once-in-a-lifetime piece of bad news. But watching a show with the fighting spirit of Culture War era progressive politics, it felt weirdly comforting. The bluntness of Batwoman made it a pretty easy target back when it came out, like it straight up addressed Black Lives Matter, defund the American police, don't ask, don't tell in the military.
I asked them not to call her.
However, it's these big balls the show has that I think gives it this life. Its raw expression encapsulated in soap.
Friend, I've learned, takes on a different meaning, depending on who you ask.
Socialization is essential to one's development.
Red is a very symbolic color.
It allows one to develop a sense of self, a sense of purpose.
But it's also the color of passion, courage, war.
Ryan, I'm sure that you think that growing up with rich white kids taught me how to play nice, but it taught me how to keep my head down.
I ask only this of them as a father. When you judge Alice for her crimes,
I am Sophie Moore in that uniform, and I am Sophie Moore out of it. For better or for worse.
remember Beth.
I can't change the past, but maybe we can build a different future. I like that.
Anyway, this was the Batwoman video. My original intention was to make a comparison, which is why the video opened with me talking about the comics. Then it became more of like a critique, but then I actually kind of fell in love with the show during the third season, and I was kind of like, darn, okay, I'm going to rework everything so it has a little bit more of a balanced, more upward vibe to it. So this is what the video ended up being. But anyway, the next video will be Pennyworth. That show is goddamn insane, and having just finished the first season, I'm like, okay, I gotta make this video because where is this show going? So I'm working on that now. There's also a Legion of Superheroes, the Teen Titans show. There's a bunch of stuff where I'm kind of like, okay, I'm gonna make like a lot of the stuff people have been asking for a while because I might as well just do it. There's no reason, especially now that I'm able to balance my time a lot better now in terms of being able to just watch an entire television show in under a month. So special thanks to everyone on Patreon, and you guys rule. I also want to make a video about Absolute Batman. That's also another idea.